What, if anything, are the gender differences and disparities when it comes to attachment and attachment issues?
So this is hotly debated. The research that they've conducted here in the U.S. indicates that more men than women tend to get avoidant attachment, which is I need to be a lone wolf, and more women than men tend to get anxious attachment, which says something is wrong with me, I'm unlovable, and I need to earn approval from other people so they don't abandon me. Now we have specific names for women with avoidant attachment style, and we won't say those names here on this channel, but they're mean and harsh. And we have specific names for guys with anxious attachment style, effeminate, nice guy syndrome, incel, things like that. So we definitely call out the opposites because they stand out as so extreme to us. The masculine and feminine energies are reversed in those people, it seems, in a severe survival trauma kind of way. But largely women tend to exhibit the please don't abandon me, I'm willing to blame myself behaviors, and men tend to exhibit the I can't trust anyone or open up, I have to figure out everything on my own. That's the break that we tend to see. And a smaller proportion of people with more significant childhood traumas tend to exhibit both, where their attachment issues broke twice, and they are very, very more chaotic and more disconnected from people.
What do you think is the reason for those differences?
Genetics, evolution, God's design. I think that if the Danes sail up your coast and burn your village to the ground and everyone dies and you get taken back at 4 years old to Denmark, I think that as a man you have a higher chance of surviving if you don't collapse into effeminate approval seeking behaviors, but you get pretty ruthless, pretty hard, you buckle down, you work extensively as hard as you can, you pocket every dollar you can, you form no sentimental connections whatsoever, you grind it out, you kill a couple guys, you make it into the group, and they all respect you now, and now you can build yourself up to a warlord. I think that that's a better survival path than please don't hurt me, I will give you whatever you want. That doesn't really engender the same survival aspect for those men, and they won't pass on their genes either. I think that for women, rather
Mhm.
than becoming a stone cold, heartless Terminator machine who's willing to have sex for anything and anything, everything kind of thing, that's a smaller portion of the population for women, whether no matter what the red pill circles might say. I think that it's far more likely that they will become self-blaming, approval seeking, that they will desire the sense of safety through oxytocin. So if a man shows them love and approval, they begin to feel safe in his presence, that they are more likely to be hyper tuned to make sure the relationship doesn't fall apart. And it also makes them very, very focused, obsessive mothers. So they're more likely to keep their children alive in those raw survival environments. I think that God crafted us that way because he's not foolish. He knows that we're going to do stupid things to each other and wreck each other's civilizations and need to survive. And I think that biology has shifted in those directions to protect us in that capacity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there's probably also a nurture aspect to it because as you're describing these different types of men and women, for example, a man who is avoidant is generally going, compared to anxious, is generally going to be more successful, respected, and attractive to the opposite sex than a man who is on the anxious end. And that's inverted for women. So a woman who is anxious and has this neuroticism and so on, it might be annoying, it might be difficult, it might be hard to deal with, but it's not repulsive. It's not repulsive to a man. It's
Correct.
almost like an extreme of certain feminine coded characteristics. Whereas if a man is like that, it's the same way that let's say you're out and about or you're even in the house and like a cockroach or a pigeon or a rat comes away. Like if a girl screams and does that, that's kind of endearing and you expect it. If a man screams and like other men are like, bro, man up, right? And women are like, ew, like what's wrong with that guy? Like, in fact, just screaming, like screaming is a female thing. Like a man should not scream. I don't think I've ever screamed in my life. I've shouted, I've yelled, but I've never screamed, right? But if a man screams, both guys and girls are like, whoa, like something's not quite wired correctly here. So I think that's also part of the reason. I think that it's as a man, you're almost like, if you're not going to be secure attached and just balanced, you're better off taking the avoidant route than the anxious route, whereas for women, I think it's the opposite.
I fully agree. And because these attachment issues, they're designed for environments where something has gone wrong, right? Secure attachment forms when things have gone fairly right. It's I don't want to say it's the natural default. We do have to learn into it and understand that it's okay. But when everybody in society is relatively healthy, everything is structured, people follow an honor code, when society is trust based, when there's a firm religious foundation that doesn't smother individuals but enhances their growth, when everything is operating properly, people tend to form more secure attachments where they can trust each other, they can collaborate, they can work together to solve problems. There will always be outliers who are unhealthy or who have broken families, but by and large, as families get better, secure attachment goes up, society improves. When you have very broken societies where that's not the case, where it's not trust based, it's legalism, it's individualism to the extreme, every child for themselves starting at age 2, when it's we can't trust each other because we have no moral code, when you can walk outside your house and get shot to death picking up your newspaper, when the politicians are harvesting you in either party just as livestock, when nothing is going right and your society seems to be collapsing, you will definitely fall apart into I can't trust anyone and I'm scared all the time. Now what do I do about it? Yes, there is a crisis of masculinity. You and I talked about this previously, I think, on my podcast. The crisis of
Mm.
masculinity is that masculinity largely died out in the West in a lot of ways. It has tried to come back as a fledgling version of itself, and men haven't known what to do. Men have tried to please women and please women and please women, and there's an outlier group, the avoidant men, who are stepping in and playing games, pickup artistry, picking up girls, even just more ethical variants of, well, we'll connect and we'll try to make it work, but I don't know, I can't figure out this monogamy thing. I think I'm just gonna have to break up with
Mm.
you every year or every other year, or maybe halfway through our marriage it's just not working out. It falls apart. We have the rise of I hate to say this. We have effeminate men on one side, which women are not attracted to in any way, shape, or form. No woman wants an effeminate man who is scared, nervous, like you said, terrified. And this is really the rise of like friend zone, incel stuff is over here on this side. They're not bad men. They're just completely lacking masculinity, and they're afraid all the time. They collapse into it. The avoidant men at least have half of the equation right. In fact, they have the first half. They have a juvenile masculinity which is questing for personal sovereignty. They are trying to build personal sovereignty because they don't trust anybody else to have any sort of control or mastery over them at all. So they are looking for that personal sovereignty, which is the first half of healthy masculinity. But they very rarely transition into the second half of healthy masculinity, which is finding your deeper purpose in service to others. Whether a legacy, whether a cause, building a kingdom, even the king on top of the hill, he is still a servant to his people. He's crafting a nation, he's crafting a people, and he is leading them. That masculinity must lead into the second phase, and avoidant attachment style will help you climb the first hill very fast, but the second hill is inaccessible to you because you have not bonded with people. You don't know how people bond. I think, and the research is spotty on this, so bear with me, the rabbit hole moment, but it seems to be that men who are avoidant never tasted oxytocin as a child, or it was weaponized against them so hard that they formed fear to oxytocin immediately in life. So they never really bonded with mom, dad, anybody intimately. They don't even remember what it's like to taste that safeness with other people. So safety to them has no flavor. They've never understood it and they don't think it's possible. So they don't become a junkie chasing it. They give in to the idea that they will never have it.
Let me ask a question, Adam. You said you used a really interesting phrase there. You said oxytocin being weaponized. Can you just expand on what exactly that means?
Oh yes. Oh yes. This is where I think a lot of the red pill dating advice comes from, is oxytocin being weaponized by moms and then later by girlfriends. Women who are much more unstable, women who are either severely both blends of attachment issues and traumatized, or personality disordered, which the research now indicates is about 15% of adult American women have a personality disorder, possibly up to 20%, but I'm skeptical about that. I think it's 15 is what the research shows.
That's
When
a
a
lot.
woman has it's a lot. When a mom has that, it's, I love you, baby. You're so special. You're so wonderful. And you do one little thing she doesn't like, and the script flips, and you are evil. You are scum. You are awful. She throws you in your crib and says, that's what you get, and walks away from you and yells at you from the other room. And you cry and cry and cry for 6 hours. And then she comes back when she wants to feel like a good mom, and she says, okay, fine. I'll forgive you. And you're like 2 months old. She hurts you. She yells at you. Even if she doesn't hurt you and yell at you in that way, she makes it so inconsistent of, I will give you love. Now I demand your fealty for my love. You owe me for life. And she punishes you the moment you don't make her feel the feelings she wants to feel. You are nothing more than an object that is, it's your purpose in life is to make her have good feelings on demand. And when this happens, this creates that oxytocin phobic response where a man's system actually fears oxytocin because it has been weaponized against him. And he believes that women will utilize this against him, and that when she gives him good feelings, the bad feelings are coming very quickly, and that he's going to be enslaved and enmeshed with her. That's the problem.